Good morning, everyone. We give should we give everyone a minute, I think, to log in, and then we'll get rolling here.
Yeah, so I think we can start, Michael.
Okay, perfect.
So I'll just introduce you a bit to our team so that they get to know you before you start.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the volume 2, number 10 of the Consumer Knowledge and Series seminar series. Today we are not honored to have with us Michael Walker, who is the head of project management discipline for FEDIC. Michael is also an award-winning civil engineer and project management expert with over 2 decades of experience. Renowned for his leadership in team growth and successful infrastructure project delivery, he is a partner at DFS design firm Seminus International. Michael's dedication to empowering global professionals is evident through DFS acclaimed training programs, bridging theory with practical application. As the manager of regional infrastructure at Associated Engineering, and a key figure at FEDIC, he actively shaped industry standard and practices, recently training professionals in Singapore and launching DFS on-demand platform to nurture skills worldwide. His expertise is in quality management, seen through ISO certification and audits, showcases his commitment to advancing project management and guiding others towards excellence. In his roles, Michael Walker stands out as a pioneering force in civil engineering and project management. Michael's experience in quality management will help us through this session as we work on our various projects. So thank you so much, Michael, for honoring our invitation and giving us the opportunity to hear from you and also improve our quality management during project implementation. Please, you may now take the floor and continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you for having me. I am honored to be here. I'm just going to share a slide screen here, so if you could just let me know when that pops up. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see that now.
Perfect. So yeah, we'll dive right into it. We've got an hour here today, so we'll try to use the best of everyone's time. It is a limited resource, so yeah. As per the very good introduction, thank you very much. My name is Michael Walker. I'm based out of Canada. It's a little early this morning, but yeah, going to talk to you today about quality management and the application for quality management in infrastructure project management and in consulting in general. So we'll make sure this works. There we go. So a little bit about myself, and if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, that QR code on the right will take you to my LinkedIn profile. So as I said, I'm a civil engineer. I'm registered in Canada and the United States as a professional. Most of the time now in my career, I'm doing project management for multidisciplinary infrastructure projects, working with teams, building teams, managing people. And as noted, I work at Associated Engineering, so I wear a couple of different hats. And then I am a partner and president of DFS, Design Firm Seminars. So some of you on the call, I see God's love on the call, so we have good to see you. Got some history with a couple of people on here through FIDIC or otherwise. And this is a firm that with 6 trainers, multinational, we provide training around the world. As noted, we just came back from Singapore. It was absolutely lovely. And we provide training, in-depth sessions, coaching, and as well as the on-demand platform. I do our past pilot. I'm a dad to 3 wonderful kids and my husband to my lovely wife. And then, as noted, I am involved with FIDIC pretty heavily for the last, I don't even know, 8-10 years, somewhere around there. So I currently sit on the sustainability committee, which just had some documents come out. Great documents available there if you're interested in nature-based solutions, which I would encourage everyone to look at. And then, as noted, I am the discipline lead for project management as well. Also involved nationally in Canada with ACEC, and I have, as noted, 20 years of experience, but still learning, and that'll come into the quality approach. On the engineering side, I actually do have some legitimate skills. I've done some pretty cool projects. You've probably seen some of my work on maybe Instagram or something. Usually the animal overpasses gets quoted as being in Norway or something, but they are very much in Banff. And so I got to do a couple cool projects through my career. Now what I'm doing mostly, as we see today, is I'm working on training. So I'm building training programs, working heavily with FIDIC Academy, which I believe you guys have, it looks like from some of the posts that you've done online, heavily into FIDIC Academy, which is awesome. Also working with other organizations such as WWF, firms. I've got too many different firms to put on there, so I just put my own firm. But working with probably about 40 or 50 currently, individual firms building packages for them, or working regionally as we're doing in Canada. And there may or may not be one coming in Africa here shortly, so stay tuned. And then, as noted, yeah, we have the 2022 graduates when we were in Geneva from the FIDIC Future Leaders Management Training Program, as well as some online interactive sessions and some in-person, as well as the on-demand stuff that we have as well. So let's get into the topic of the day. Quality management. We're going to go pretty, we're assuming that you've got a pretty good standard on what is quality management, but going through some of the basics to get us started, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So we're going to go through the need for quality. What is quality management? Talk about quality planning, quality control, quality assurance, quality improvement. Then we'll talk about ISO 9001. That's kind of the main one out there. And I see that you guys are in the quality journey, let's say, of getting ISO 9001 certified, which is awesome. Then we'll talk about compliance, certification with other things, as well as with ISO. So looking at ISO, TQM, Lean, PDCA, CMMI, Kaizen, Six Sigma, etc. There's a ton of these, and the real key will be making sure that it works for you. Then we'll talk about quality and consulting. This is where that last bullet point, we're going to spend most of our time today. So why is quality important? If anyone wants to, this is going to make this a little bit interactive for you. So if you want to scan that QR code, slido.com, or enter the code there, you can start doing just do a real quick word cloud. Maybe, make sure that you've had some coffee this morning. So if you want to jump on there, scan that QR code, and then just put in any thoughts that you have on why quality is important. Oops. Let's see. Oh, it's not loading for some reason. Anyone tried to do it yet? Or is technology going to let us down?
Yeah.
Hey, there we go. To ensure consistent outputs. Come on, people. You got to wake up in the morning. Anyone else? Pull out your cell phone. Maybe you're watching on your cell phone. That would probably be, yeah, awkward to do. Best outcomes. Okay. Outputs, outcomes. There you go. Now, what I'm trying to do with this is trying to make you think about it a little bit. Are these are we just going to be looking at a quality system? There you go, guarantee public safety. Good call. That could be drinking water standards, making sure if you're doing a water treatment plant, that, the quality of the product is coming out is good, as well as, if you're doing roadways or anything like that. So, okay, let's jump to it here. You guys probably need a little bit more coffee in your lives this morning. So, couple different items on here. So consistent products and deliverables, making sure that what your firm is providing looks like what your client is expecting. And that is really the key in quality management. You could say that something is of quality, but if it is of quality to you, but it's not of quality to what the client is expecting, you've fallen short. So really, consistent product and deliverables that meet the client's requirements, standards, and expectations. And if you can do that, it doesn't matter what line color you use, what line type, using AutoCAD or Bentley or whatever. The client doesn't care 99% of the time. Sometimes they do, that's fine. But most of the time, they're expecting that the output meets their needs, their values, their desires, and their expectations. Then, as stated, compliance with standards and safety. Water treatment plant that doesn't produce clean water isn't really good to anyone. Then we want to look at financial sustainability. And this is where, when you get into management, you're going to be looking at, okay, what is the impact of quality management on my firm? And how does that, there is a cost to all of this. So is that net benefit, net cost, that sort of thing. So we'll get into that later. Then you look at risk management. A lot of the time you'll get into, litigation, disputes, all sorts of bad things. So a good quality management plan can help you with that. It can also reduce your interest premium, or sorry, not interest, your insurance premiums, and making sure that you're, back into the financial, that you're doing the best thing for your firm throughout sustainability and risk. Then you get into decision quality, which is an entire beast in itself. How does your board make decisions? How does your management make decisions? Are they making good decisions, or are they just making decisions? Then you get into the reliability of documentation. So depending on what type of client you're working for, do they require that you keep all of your documents for 7, 8, 9, 10 years? And, what does that do to customer satisfaction? Is the client happy again? Then you get into employee engagement. Do people want to work at a firm that doesn't produce quality results, doesn't care about quality? With a lot more of the younger people coming into the firms, coming into the industry, they want to work at a place that is proud, or that they can be proud of the output that they're working on. So that can be very important, of making sure that you're keeping employees engaged and on fire, and delivering great results for your firm. Then we look at professional development, like you're doing today. Does your firm just say what they do but actually doesn't back it up? That is actually quality in professional development. So the fact that you're having these events shows that you're following that. So that's fantastic. Then you get into human resources quality, because in the end, we are a business of people. So without people, you can't produce your products. We don't create widgets. We don't have factories that are building, little trinkets, things out of wood or steel or whatever. We are building designs. We are selling ideas as consultants. So we want to make sure that we have good people, that we take care of those people, we develop those people properly, and that we hire the right ones, and that we fire the wrong ones. Then the real important part of this is continuous improvement. You'll notice that if you build a great program, but it doesn't react to a continuously changing environment, which we are in, it will become useless and obsolete very quickly. So that's where your leadership needs to really step in and say, we're going to iterate this, maybe every month, every 2 months, every 6 months, and we're going to wholesale look at our overall quality management plan every year or 2 years, whatever it is. It's up to you. It's your firm, it's your business. So make sure that it fits properly. I've lost all of my little PowerPoint functions, but we'll keep going. So anyway, quality management in a nutshell is these 4 things. So quality planning, so planning what you're going to do, sitting down saying, how are we going to do this? Do we want checklists for everything? Do we want paper checklists? Do we want them to be online? Do we want a Microsoft software package for this, or do we want to just walk around and talk about it? So that comes into the quality plan, and that is where ISO doesn't tell you what to do. Kaizen doesn't tell you what to do on this. This is where you need to know what works for your firm as well as what works for your project. So if you're quality planning for your project, what type of, if it's a small firm or a small project, you're going to want to have a quality plan that's appropriately sized for that project. If it's a mega project, you're going to want to have multiple reviews, multiple iterations. Maybe you want to bring in Six Sigma or something like that, but really making sure that it fits and that it's right sized to your project and to your firm, depending if we're talking about quality management on a project or quality management on a firm. That is the critical piece that you want to look at, is making sure that all of this is right sized and that it's providing value and it's not a burden on your system or on your project. So then once you have your quality plan, you're going to get into your quality controller, your QC. And just a sec, I'm just going to try to bring up, there we go. So your QC is the measurement or comparison of a finished product against some set of standards and the rejection of product not meeting those set of standards. So this would be where you have forms, you got your guy there checking, making sure that the things are working, they're working properly, and they're checking, they're conforming to a standard. Then you get into quality assurance, which is the program of verification of different acts involved in the completion of a process. So you can think of this as QC is checking that the actual product is good. QA is checking the process that the QC was done properly. So it's checking the checks. Then at the end, you want to get down and see quality improvement of, did we maybe not plan properly? Did we have the wrong checklist? Are we checking the wrong things? Did we not check the checks? Did we not check often enough? Is our process not working for us? And this is where quality improvement is where you add in pieces that are missing and you delete pieces that aren't working for you. So that is a critical piece. And you can do quality improvement on a regular basis. You can do it, informally, just say something came up, we don't like this, is this a systemic issue that we're looking at? Yeah, maybe you want to change your quality process. So easier way to do this is quality management is saying what you do, making a checklist, plan, that sort of thing, doing what you say, checking the checklist, right? And then you're going to prove it. And that's where your certifications come in for ISO 9001, is they're going to come in and they're going to check your documentation. They're not going to sit beside you while you're doing your project. They're not going to, well, they could. It's going to cost a ton of money, but it's usually an external auditor is going to come and check your documentation from the past 2-3 years, depending what your cycle is. And they're going to check that there is documentation available. And if there's no documentation available, it didn't happen. So you could have a fantastic, robust project management, quality management, all sorts of lovely things. But if you don't document, it doesn't count. Then you're going to improve it. So you're going to go back and make sure that everything is working for you. And that, in a nutshell, is every single quality management system out there. You can add a bunch of different names to this. You can call it different things. You can put 15 different sub-steps on this, but this is the basics of quality management in a project, in a firm, whatever you do. So say what you do what you say, prove it, and then improve it. So the main one out there when we talk about quality management is ISO 9001, or depending who you're talking to, ISO 9000. But in the next slide, I'll show you what the family of standards looks like. But ISO, for those not aware, or International Organization for Standardization, is based out of Switzerland, and it's an independent, non-governmental international organization with membership of 167 national standard bodies. This rolls off the tongue. But basically what they do, and I don't have the current updated number, I think it's like 25,000 different standards that they manage. ISO 9000 is one of them. ISO 9001 is another one. And then there's a whole bunch of other ones. So if you want to get into integrity management, anti-bribery, that's ISO 37001. And there's different ISOs for each standard. And it could be on, how to sharpen pencils or something like that. So they're not going to tell you how to do your quality. They're going to do your checks on it and your audits on it. So then we get into the ISO 9000 family of standards. So if your firm is ISO 9001 certified, you would actually be certified in this second one here. And ISO 9000 basically includes the concepts and the terminology. And then the other ones there are either quality systems or supporting technologies. So lots of different items on there. So guidelines for measuring and monitoring, guidelines for dispute resolution, lots of different things that you can get into there. So make sure that, again, you're utilizing this in a way that's appropriate to your project. So each project is different, each project is unique, and each project should have the quality management implemented in a manner that is bringing value to that project. Then you can get certified in ISO 9001 if you want. You don't have to. There is no requirement for certification. However, you can be compliant with ISO 9001 without being certified in ISO 9001. And that gets into a very kind of strange, almost semantics type thing of saying, our system is in compliance with ISO 9001, so we do all the documentation, we say what we do what we say, we prove it, we improve it. However, we don't have certification on that, and that's fine. Unless your clients require you to have ISO 9001 certification, there's really no downside to that. So it can be a benefit to your company. It can provide lots of great things, which we'll talk about in a bit, but there's no reason that that project needs to be ISO certified or the firm needs to be ISO certified unless it's going to bring value to you. And usually that's in the case that the client is requesting you to be ISO certified. So other ones, we always get the question of, ISO's there, but I've heard of the CMMI, I've heard of Kaizen, I've heard of, Six Sigma. What is that? And so each of these slightly different. So, Six Sigma, the DMAIC over there, Plan, Do, Check, Act. A lot of it is very similar. Kaizen is, the Japanese there on the screen is basically the continuous improvement. So a lot of these, even when you get into agile project management, you're bringing in different components of these. You might bring in lean and Kaizen into agile project management, or you might use ISO certification in your quality management plan. So again, lots of different options out there. Depending on what you're doing, maybe CMMI is the right one for you. AS 9100, I believe, is aircraft. There's other ones that are specific to software integration or development. So you want to make sure that you're not taking a software centered package and applying it to an infrastructure project. So generally for infrastructure, we're looking at ISO the Plan, Do, Check, Act, Kaizen, Lean, and Six Sigma. But again, if there's something that is specific to your firm, your region, your type of work, it's really up to you to make sure that you're selecting the right system that is working for you, and that you, if you do want to get certified in that, go right ahead. There's certification for individuals or firms, and even the project can get certified as well. So then the next question in this is, how do you get, what is the cost to fully implement this? So I just pulled some numbers from our good friends over at Business Development Bank of Canada, or BDC. Basically what they're saying is, depending on where you're at in your quality journey, and I keep saying quality journey because it is a continuous improvement. So if you're a brand new firm, you've never done anything, you've never documented anything, it's probably going to take you a bit of time to get that documentation in place. Probably because you're still trying to get projects going and business development and, you know, a lot of actual business things going. But that from inception to registration, again, generally 12 to 18 months. And depending on the size of the firm, could be anywhere from 12,000 to 50,000 Canadian. And I convert it into USD just because everyone loves USD for some strange reason. And then the audits every year, you have to budget for that as well. And I would say the low end of this is if you're well organized. If you have good documents, you're a smaller firm, there's not as much to look at. And then as your complexity increases, or as your, if your organization, not organization, if the organization of your documents decreases and you don't have as good of filing and documentation, then you're going to be on the higher end of that cost, because the auditor is going to have to look for stuff, or they're just going to give up and finish the audit early and say documentation was not available, and you're going to fail your audit. Then you're going to have to redo it again. So again, take that with a grain of salt, but you can definitely get some third parties, firms to come in, help you out with that, as well as provide the third party audit to you as well. As we noted, I'm heavily involved with FIDIC, and so just thought I'd throw in the FIDIC statement on quality here. So FIDIC believes that its member associations and their members should strive to achieve the highest degree of quality and standards. FIDIC has always had policy statements that it expects its members to follow to ensure high standards of service in the infrastructure industry. These standards are reflected in FIDIC's contracts, policy work, events, and committees. So if you've ever been to an event at FIDIC, maybe you're in the contracts committee, maybe you use the documents, or use the contracts, or you're, you know, working on projects that do, it's important to know that there is an interplay between all of the documents, and you can't just use a FIDIC contract without implementing quality management into it, or that is the intent anyways. So now let's look at this quality and consulting. And this kind of is my favorite area because it brings everything together. And you might just be saying, you know, Mike, I dialed in, I wanted you to give me a form and a checklist, and I wanted to know what color of ink to use and what line type to use. And I'm sorry, that is not this. The answer to all of that is it depends. And it really depends on your firm. It depends on your clients. It depends what they want. Do they want physical drawings? Do they want electronic drawings? Do they even want drawings? Do they want BIM? Do they want it, you know, something like that, where you have to talk to your clients. You have to know what they're delivering. And that's how you're doing those items of say what you do what you say, prove it. So make sure it's suited to your firm, your work, and your project. If your project isn't in compliance with your firm's standards, you're going to have a lot of problems. So making sure that those forms are available, and if they're not, there's tons of templates out there. You can even ask ChatGPT to create you a standard checklist. Again, be careful. You're going to want to make sure that you check that. ChatGPT is great, or other AI you know, products that are out there, but I like to say that they're kind of like a junior engineer, junior technologist that is coming in, producing you a report, document, There's words on a page. They might be wrong. They might be right. Who knows? But it's our responsibility as professionals to check those and make sure that they are accurate. So take the time, look at what it's spitting out. Does it make sense? Does it work for your firm? Or if you work at a mega firm, they probably have these documents. I've worked at a couple mega firms that didn't have these documents, and I ended up helping them create some of the documents that are now have gone into use on some rather large projects around the world. So it's kind of cool, but at the same time, I was rather surprised that large firms, circa 50,000 people, didn't have proper quality planning documents, or they had the QC forms, but they didn't have great QA forms or something like that. So make sure it works for you. Then the trick is you need to get buy-in from all levels. So you can't just have the project manager love this idea of quality management, or if you're on a large project, you might actually have a quality manager as well for the project. And you can't just have them be the only one that's sitting there banging the quality drum saying, this is what everyone needs to do. You really need to have that buy-in from everyone at all levels. And that is from the most junior employee to the most senior employee, the board, management, bosses, however your firm is set up, your project is set up. You want to make sure that everyone is on board with this idea of quality. And the trick how to do that is to make sure that it's not just for technical product production and project management. So you might have a great PMP, like a great project management plan. You might have a great PMP person as well, certified. But anyway, bad PM joke. But anyway, the technical production is great, but you also need to have quality in the rest of your systems. This includes your human resources. So who are we hiring? How are we developing them in training, development, reviews? Maybe you have an HR policy, again, that policy, that plan, but you don't have the checklist. Maybe your juniors don't know what they should be achieving. They don't know what they should be getting. And then that's going to come through in your projects. And you're going to have these failures and you're going to say, why don't these young, engineers know what they're doing anymore? Well, maybe you hired the wrong person. Maybe you trained them wrong. So that's where, documenting these things and then improving them and say, maybe our hiring documents are incorrect. Maybe we're looking for the wrong thing. Maybe we're hiring on what their grades were out of school, but we didn't check to make sure that they were, a good fit for our firm. Something like that. Again, your firm, your business, up to you. Your projects. And then firing, making sure that you're both on a project basis and on a firm basis, making sure that you're having the right mix of people in there. Because if you have somebody that comes in to your project and you have a great buy-in from a lot of different levels, but you have one person, maybe your lead designer, doesn't believe in quality management for some reason, doesn't believe in filling out those forms, you can actually lose your certification because you didn't document anything. And that would be an extreme case, but again, just want to make sure that everyone's on board with that. Then when you get into marketing and business development, I don't know how many companies' websites you'll look at and they all say the same thing. We're great, we love our people, we do the best work in the world, all this fun stuff, but they don't prove it. And you get there, our clients work there, or clients provide them work, and then they go somewhere else afterwards and they flip-flop through different firms. And the reason for that is they're not getting quality on their projects. So the clients aren't receiving what they're paying for. And you might think that you did a great job. And this is the issue that I see in quality management throughout the globe, is that the forms are self-serving to the firm. And in that I'm saying, we make sure that green ink was used, blue ink was used, this type of line type was used. The clients don't care about that. And on 99% of the forms that you'll get out there, we'll say, we did a great job, we did a really quality job. And if the client doesn't come back and do work with us again, We just think that we did absolutely wonderful, but we actually didn't meet their needs. We met our own needs. So this, if you get into the Kaizen, this was, Toyota used this heavily in the vehicle manufacturing segment. And then you'd look at the difference between that and the German engineering, where they said, well, uh, you know, the system failed because the user used it in a way that it wasn't intended to. Whereas the Japanese, and this is going back to the 80s, 90s of their kind of manufacturing heyday, Toyota's reliability was amazing because they said, what could go wrong? We'll fix it. We wanted to do the user experience. That was the Toyota approach, as opposed to, BMW, Volkswagen, somebody like that. So if you use that in your projects and your firm, you say, how do we do this? Can we make it better? Then that also gets into sustainability. Are we doing sustainability correctly? Are we looking at the environmental impacts? Are we looking at the economic impacts? Are we looking at, just all of these different pieces together to make sure that we are doing everything sustainably, not just, again, ticking off a check sheet to say, we think we're wonderful, but maybe that's not bringing value to the project. Then we get into the real interesting piece of finance and accounting. And this is where, if you want to get buy-in from your shareholders, your owners, your board of directors, you need to show an ROI on your quality management system. This has to be done both at the project level and then aggregate those together to the firm level to show that, this is actually bringing value to the project. Then you can look at IT, are we having all of our systems crashed and we couldn't get any work done because we didn't, fix any of the problems. We have poor quality of our IT, and then into leadership and management. So good fun there. So talked about ROI on this, or return on investment. And the real key for this is, before you implement a quality management system, you have to have something to measure it against. So you have to create a baseline for that. And that baseline, you have to make sure that it's a real one. You can't just say, we've never had rework before, we're fantastic, we're amazing, because then you won't be able to track your ROI. And a lot of firms that I've seen or had access to their financials, they look great, but they usually have, and firms call it different things, but they usually have an indirect charge problem that I can usually identify. And that's where their utilization numbers or their chargeability is low. And we say, well, why is that? And they said, well, because we just have to get that project done. It's out of budget, but we'll just get it done. Or there's rework on it and we're not charging for that. Okay, well, that's poor project management, and it should be tracked so that we can get better at this over time. And that comes into this baseline. So making sure that you're tracking your rework, you're tracking all of these different things, which you'll see a long list in a second here, will make sure that you know what your baseline is, and then if you're improving, and what the return on investment is. So you want to track your write-offs, your variances, anytime that you can, you did work, but you can't get paid for it. Your rework, that's a big one, where quality impacts all of these items. But rework is probably one of the biggest ones. Dispute avoidance time is another one that usually kind of flies under the radar. So if something was wrong, it was late, and the PM, somehow magically negotiates with the client to not sue you, to not get into the next point of arbitration and litigation, and then you go back into rework, but that PM's time needs to get captured in there as well. So making sure that you're thinking about that. And again, this can be on the project level, but it can also roll up into the overall firm. Then you can look at things like arbitration litigation, obviously pretty easy to track those numbers because they're right out there, whereas the other ones were a little bit hidden. And then one that you can't get me to shut up on this one, is staff turnover. And if you've ever done any of the Gallup Q12, I use it heavily in my HR training with teams to make sure that we're getting good staff integration, good, people are engaged, they are doing great work, and that they're happy. And so that's a whole subject on itself, the Q12. But I do encourage you to look that up at some point or contact me. I can give you some more information on it. But basically what that impacts is your staff turnover rate. So if you are not doing good quality work on your project, you might have people that don't want to work on your project. They don't want to work with you as a PM. Or in your firm, they don't want to work with you at all. So then you can track your staff turnover number, and that can actually really impact your company evaluation number as well. And 2 years ago in Geneva, there was a fantastic session where we learned that anytime you have staff turnover over 10%, your valuation for a merger and acquisition just plummets. And so that was fascinating to me. Then you want to look at dollars per full-time employee, or FTE. This is something that, again, it can be a bit of a hidden number. So, maybe you have 100,000, 150,000 per person per FTE. And then over time, after implementing your quality management system, that might go up. So that you have to do on a firm level, but if you're in a matrix organization, you might be able to do that on a project as well. Then you can look at multipliers for your project. How much can you charge each person out? Again, that one's a little bit more hidden. And then the big one here is repeat clients and client satisfaction scores. The trick with this one is you want to make sure that you're accurately getting data and not just skewing your data to either people that are really, really mad. And to be honest, probably your PM is not sending out the form to them anyways. Then there's a huge chunk that probably are impartial. They don't really care. And then you've got your champions, and they're going to fill out the survey, or people that love filling out survey, right? So you're going to get really biased results on this if you don't survey every project and if you don't do it multiple times, because your client satisfaction surveys generally in the industry, if you don't push them, you'll get somewhere between 10 to 20% feedback on those surveys. If you just email them out, 10 to 20%, probably 15% will come back to you, and they will be skewed towards the people that love filling out surveys. And generally those are people that are either really happy or really mad at you. So what you want to do is connect with your PMs, tell them, this is important to go out and do this. And if you've ever been to a restaurant, probably the waiter or waitress comes by the table, you've had that first bite, they say, how is it? Is your chicken raw? Is your salad terrible? Do you hate it? Do you love it? Where are you at? Can I get you anything? And that's a good little point. I'm implementing this at my firm. We're doing this check at about 10 to 20% of a project being done after the first invoice is being sent out. Somewhere, again, depends on your firm. Check in with them, see how it's going, see if they were expecting more communication. And that's usually the one that they care about. They don't care about seeing your QC form as much. They don't. Some clients do, but most don't. And they care about regular project updates. Did they issue an update once a week? Did they forget about one here and there? But hey, that'd be really great if I could see that on Tuesday instead of Friday. And whatever it is, then you adjust, go from there. And then at that final, you can usually get a great review, which then meant that you delivered on that project. You did a quality job on it. Then you can get a client reference. You can say, hey, would you mind giving a quote? Next time that we do work with you, we'd really like to use a quote because you were so happy on the product and the service that you received. And then all of a sudden you're going to use that in your marketing data, and it's going to be really hard for them to say anything bad about you, because here's this great evidence that maybe reminded them of 3 years before when you delivered a great project to them, and that you communicated. Maybe not everything was perfect, but you did a really good job. So then scope changes, depending what firm you work for. Some people love these, some people hate them. But make sure that you're tracking how much work is coming in as a scope change. And maybe that is a good thing, that your client is providing extra work to you because they like the work that you're doing. But again, bit of a double-edged sword. So quick little summary here, just with an eye on the time. So say what you do what you say, prove it, improve it. Then if you want to get certified, go ahead, great, go through that process, but note that each, if you want to get Six Sigma certified, there's services that will help you with that. Make sure that it's bringing value to your firm and bringing value to your project, and then keep learning. Make sure that you're improving things. I always use the idea that in risk management, my risk registers in 2019 did not have COVID pandemic anywhere close to them. Now every single one has COVID pandemic. So the environment is changing that we're operating in. We need to adapt and learn to that, and quality is the exact same. So new things are coming up. AI is getting integrated. Is there a risk that AI could adversely impact quality management or improve it? It could be both. So let's make sure that we're adapting to that we're including it, and maybe you're using generative design on bridges, but make sure that your quality management is kept up to that, so that it's not based off of, the quality management that was done in the 1960s with hand drafting and that sort of thing. So keep that going. On that note, lots of opportunities for future learning. We've got the Future Leaders Management course through FIDIC. There's also a lot of other courses, which I think you guys have been through quite a bit of those with FIDIC Academy. So check it out. Lots of great things on there. There's also individual trainers. You see me right here. And then we've got, there's actually 6 of us. So Michelle Kruger, Dr. Michelle Kruger from South Africa, Richard Stumps out of Chicago, Jessica's out of the UK now, Jomana is out of Jordan, and then Andrew Steves. The 6 of us are make up DFS. And then, yeah, if you guys do want, we have this DFS on demand. It's got short videos, 20 minutes that you could watch on your, maybe you're taking the train into work or something, or your coffee break. Basically business excellence videos for people throughout the industry. If you want to do that, I threw a 30% off code on there for you. It's just a monthly, it's like Netflix, but for professional development, if you're interested in that. So now I will stop sharing and we can do, what do we got? 13 minutes of Q&A. So if anyone wants to turn on your cameras and ask some questions, more than happy to answer.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael, for the insightful presentation. I really learned a lot today, even though some of the things you've already taught me, but then it was a good refresher. I think there are some questions in the chat box.
Okay.
Here we go. So I don't know if you'd want me to read that.
No, I can read them real quick. So, yeah, as a consultant, client satisfaction is key, as also presented here. In a situation where a client is accepting substandard works against the consultant's recommendations, quality requirements for the project, please, how best can the consultant ensure quality control in the project? Fantastic question. Or in other words, in a conflict between quality control plan requirements and client satisfaction, how do we handle this as consultants? So first key in this is going to be make sure that what you're providing the client brings them value. In the end, you're not working, unless you're doing this for your own, you're volunteering your own time. They're the ones paying for this. And I've had this in numerous cases where the client has gone against our recommendation. And what you want to do is communicate. You might have to put a little bit of extra time in there that you haven't, budgeted for or thought about. So you have to work on that. But then you're also going to want to document absolutely everything that's going through. So make sure that if they are accepting something that is substandard to a certain level, again, you need to get, if there's health and safety requirements, you need to make sure that you get certain regulations involved there. There might be regulators that need to get involved to say, we recommend against doing this. And you've documented all of this, because basically set yourself up for potential litigation before it starts. So document everything, communicate everything, and that's where you want your communication plan to go into overdrive and really document absolutely everything, over communicate, have group meetings together. and then you're going to bring out a bunch of your project management skills. But I've had this, unfortunately, a number of times. It's not fun. I have clients that want to cut corners, cut costs, a bunch of and I've fired clients before, which is a crazy idea. But if you're in that position where you don't need to work with them, you can also say, you've gone against our recommendation. We no longer want to proceed with the contract. So take that as it will, but you may want to get some legal involvement in there. You might also want to get your insurance involved. A lot of the time they will actually like that. They'll like to hear that you think that this could be a problem. Bring your insurer in, they'll start documenting everything for you. And if it goes to litigation or if there's a regulatory problem, again, depending where you are in the world, they can help out quite a bit. Okay, and then great presentation. I'd like to know how quality management helps in compliance with industry standards and regulations. So this is where, again, depending on what you're doing, you might be in manufacturing, you might be in roads and transportation, you might be in bridges, but that's where that QC checklist is going to be different for every single different group that you have. And so a bridge checklist is going to look different than a software checklist. And so that's where, if your firm already has one, you're going to want to go in and look at it and make sure, is this serving us as presented, or is there something else that we aren't looking at? And that's where usually on mine and my firm, industry standards are listed as one of the items on the checklist. Which industry standards are we working against? Which ones are we integrating? Are there any that we're not following? And you list those out, and then you can confirm that those are in there. And then there's usually another line that says, have all industry standards and regulations been checked? And unfortunately, that's a really bad one, because then you don't know what you don't know. So you might say, yes, I've checked everything, but you weren't aware that there was a new regulation that just came out. So a lot of the time, I encourage people to say, instead of saying all regulations were checked, you said we do a check on each one of these. Oh, there we go. We do a check for new regulations that are coming out. We do a check for new problems or that sort of thing. So there you go. Any other I lost my.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael. If any other person has a question, they can raise their hand so that they come in. But before then, I would like to ask a question, Michael. You mentioned that quality management should start even with the junior most engineer in your team. I want to find out, how do you involve everyone in your team on board, and what kind of education or training would you recommend to ensure that people don't just do it because they are instructed to, but do it because they understand? Thank you.
Great question. Yeah, that's that buy-in, that understanding is critical for us, right? Like if you look at somebody who's making a contract, filling out a bid form, or they're making drawings or something like that, they might think that they're doing this small, unimportant thing, when in reality they might be, building a water treatment plant, and that pump is going to provide clean drinking water for, hundreds of thousands of people. And so it's very important with juniors to mentor them, to show that leadership as, as kind of I'd say as an intermediate and a senior in your firm. You need to show that leadership to them in quality, and show what the impacts of the work that they're doing is, and take that time to foster, mentor, and lead them into a way with quality management. And the reason for that is that what you did to get to this point in your career won't get you to the next point of your career, right? So you finished school, you graduated, you got some great marks, but all of a sudden now you have to learn a whole new skill set. What I'm trying to say to everyone here is once you get into the position that you are no longer the junior, you have a responsibility to go and guide and lead those people more junior than you, or that are not as advanced on their quality management journey to, you know, come to the quality management side and show them that and guide them. So what you didn't have to do before, you now have that responsibility to do. So with that, then there's formal training as well. But I do think the informal, the leadership is critical in this. But then showing them what programs are available. So if it's, hey, go sign up FIDIC Academy, you know, the firm provides you funding for that, or you know, there's time allocated for your training, or this will help advance you, that sort of thing. That is where you can guide them, because the issue is once you graduate, you don't have a syllabus anymore. You don't have, you know, you go to university, go to school, technical school, and you have all your courses laid out. But once you graduate, you're lost, right? And so that's where that leadership can help show you those courses. And that's what, you know, the 6 of us at DFS, that's what we've tried to do, is provide a syllabus for people that are, you know, kind of lost in the void and say, what do I need to learn? I don't know what I need to learn. I didn't know I needed business development. I didn't know I needed quality management. But what we've done is tried to curate a bunch of those. FIDIC Academy, same thing. We work very closely with them. And yeah, here's documents, go get some books, reading lists, all sorts of, just share that information with each other.
Right. Thank you so much, Michael. We have a few minutes to go. Any more questions? Then we can wrap up our session for today.
Quality timing on this one, so. I don't see any other. Come on, everyone. There's got to be more questions.
Okay, if there are no other questions, then I think we can wrap up here. Thank you so much, Michael. As mentioned earlier, despite the time difference, you still made time to be here with us, and we are very much grateful and happy to hear today's session and to see you again for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And have a great day.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, everybody,
good to see you again.
Today's session. Yeah.
Okay. Have a great day.
Thank
everyone.
you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you. And connect on LinkedIn.
You.
Well, yeah, all that. Lots of good things. So, have a great day.
Okay. Bye, everybody, and have a great week ahead.
Bye. See you.